Hi everyone. Welcome to the first webinar, first set of webinars being organized by ISM Hall Alumni Association. So since this is sort of the first public event we are hosting, we thought we'll also give people an introduction about the association and what the association has been doing. Because I know we haven't really had much of a communication both with the students as well as the alumni, despite it being 3 years since we started. So the Alumni Association started in 2000. I mean, the activities to set up an association started in 2017. I mean, in fact, it was in the 2016 December when Dr. Prasad, who was the then lead student, sent out a mail to the student community. I mean, to some alumni to the alumni list. So if you know, there is an alumni list which is been maintained by the institute, a list of mail IDs to which they send mail to which people who have not subscribed can subscribe later. So, and a group of volunteers came together and they were tasked with setting up drafting a constitution for the Alumni Association. So the committee was sort of coordinated by Vivek Sagar, and we had inputs from Professor Prasad, Dr. NGP, and the constitution was drafted. It was put forth for the validation, or put forth in front of the entire alumni community to suggest and comment, and based on, and once the process was closed, as in once the draft constitution was made, an interim center committee was set up. That was in, I think, July 2017, with the aim of organizing the first alumni meet of Faisal Mohali in 2017 December. So in this 2017, so we had the first meeting and we had our first general elections as well. So a new board was elected with Gaurav Agarwal as the president. And one of the two things which the first board did, one was to institute what is the ISM Hall Alumni Association Leadership and Outreach Award, which as short form we call AALO Award. So that was one of the things which the first board did. And the award had two editions in 2018 and 2019. In addition to that, and you can actually find out more about what the board has done and who are the part of the board on our website, which the link we'll share. So in addition to the board members about whom and even the history you can find on the website, there are many other people who has helped the association at different junctures. I mean, who has been active either in being a part of the jury for the award, or even jury for the award, or even in taking part in the 2017 meeting, for instance. I mean, Bharat Gehlot, for instance, had come just to attend the meet, and he had also given a talk then. So Aniket Gaur was a part of the association in the beginning. He tried helped us setting up a website, but that didn't really quite work out. Abhishek Gaurav, who made a logo for us. Then there was, even I think Rishiraj and Shivam are probably participating here. They're registered. So they were part of our juries earlier. And many people have come and participated in different activities with the association. But what hasn't really happened is a constant, we haven't really managed to put up a channel of communication with the alumni as well as with the student. So one thing which we aim through organizing these webinars is to establish that particular communication between the alumni who are actually the members of the association, and alumni and the board, as well as with the students and the alumni association. So when I say alumni association, that would include the alumni members of the association, as well as the board who are elected from the alumni members to represent the board. So in the long run, I mean, like as I said, like many people have contributed, including the board members, of which very few the people who had had set up the organization, like the people in the interim board or the first board has now is there, like they help whenever required. And in addition to that, some of the names which has who are the people who have sort of helped in the law helped us during this period was Dr. Prasad, Professor Aravind, and now Dr. Amit Kulshrestha, who's also helping us organize this webinar. So some of the faculties have been also extremely helpful in setting up the organization. And I thought, as the current president of the Alumni Association, it is sort of my responsibility to tell people like where has this organization come from and who all has played a part in it. More details can be found on our website, which we'll put up. And also, I also want to reiterate that this is an association of the alumni, and we are just a group of people who have been elected and are representing the alumni and carrying out operations. So with this, I would like to invite Dr. Prasad, who is also here with us, to probably say a couple of words, because as I said, he's also been one of the persons who has been instrumental in setting up the organization from the beginning. Professor Prasad.
Hi, Arul.
Yeah,
A good evening to everyone. A warm welcome to all of you. Special welcome to all the alumni. It's very nice to see you all again. I hope all of you are keeping well and safe under these conditions. I'm very, very happy that the first edition of the webinar series is happening today. I should thank and congratulate all the members of the Alumni Association for having made this possible. One of the things that we had hoped for when we started the Alumni Association about 3 years ago is that we have now developed a very rich pool of alumni, a huge resource, a set of people who are ready to help the current students here. We wanted to somehow come up with a channel of direct communication between our students and the alumni. This webinar series was one of a set of plans to set in this channel. I'm happy that it is happening. I hope that all our current students will make use of this. We at IISER Mohali will be very happy to facilitate this interaction. And I hope this association and the Alumni Association both grow in the years to come. I hope that all of you will enjoy today's webinar and will make full use of it. I'm happy to see nearly 150 people participating in it. I am told that about a third are our alumni. So thank you so much for taking your time out and being ready to help out your juniors. Thank you.
sorry. Sorry, I was muted. So yeah, thank you, Dr. Prasad. So like I've talked about like how we have come up to here, and then now it's about like, where we want to take the association to. And in that sense, even though this webinar was sort of intended for the students, I mean, we have a lot of alumni who was tuned in, and we would like to request them to take part in the future webinars. I mean, help us coordinate with the activities, take part in other activities of the association. And also association as it is, or even the board right now is, I mean, there are certain principles on which one would want to set the board on, which one could be inclusivity, another would be like participation of maximum number of alumni. And we would also probably want to stand separate from other alumni associations. And in one way where we could probably stand different is that alumni association is often about, or even alumni is all about, celebrating successful alumni and even celebrating successful stories. And we could probably be different in the sense that it could be a community for all the alumni. I mean, whether they are successful or whether they're doing well or whether they're struggling, irrespective of all that, I think we should be extending our support to all people who are alumni, who have come studied at IISER Mohali and has gone out and are in different are in like are doing different things in their life right now. And in that sense, again, like another thing which would be probably like to have going forward is to make the association more inclusive, or even the board more inclusive. For instance, I mean, the last 3 terms, I mean, including interim board, the office bearers of the association has always been cis-appearing men. I mean, it's always been cis-appearing men. The president, the treasurer, the vice president, the secretary. So that's also something which where we would probably like to have more diversity and more people coming in. And people from different backgrounds, people from academic, non-academic, people who are in public sector, people who are working in private sector, people who are administrators, policymakers, and all that. I know we would like the community to grow bigger, and we will also like suggestions from our alumni or even students on how we can better coordinate our activities and better engage with all of you. So we'll probably circulate forms, or we'll announce how people can contact us. We hope all of you will give us suggestions, and will also cooperate with us on our future endeavors. With this, I'll invite Neeraj Deshmukh, who is our secretary, to moderate this session. Neeraj will also introduce our speakers. Thank you.
Yeah, so hi everyone. So I am Neeraj Deshmukh. I'll be moderating this session. So I think we've spent a lot of time discussing about the Alumni Association and such. So just to give like a brief account of how this webinar came about. So we were discussing about, I mean, in this quarantine period, because now that online meetups are in vogue. So we were thinking of doing a meetup, and then various things came together. Like we wanted to introduce this mentorship platform to the students, and about a month or so ago, we had sent an email to the institute about having a seminar on campus. This was Vinay's idea, who is one of the speakers. A seminar on opportunities beyond academia, which would be given out by alumni. So of course, this was supposed to happen in April, but because of quarantine, yeah, that didn't happen. But this is like one of the activities, as Arul mentioned, in future we'll be taking up. But so because we were planning to do meetups online, we thought, why not like run a webinar in the spirit of alumni talking to students and seeing what sort of response we get, and we've got an amazing response today. So let's just directly start with the speakers. But before we start, I'd like to mention that if at any point, if you have questions for the speakers, then please send those questions, since of course all of you are muted, please send those questions to Arul in the chat window, and kindly mention the name of the speaker to whom you're asking the question. And if possible, please also like sign your question. I mean, I'm sure most of you have your usernames, like your actual name as username on Zoom, so it's okay. But if like there is some reddevil.neeraj, then maybe it will be good to have a full name in place. Yeah, that's all. So let's start with the first speaker. Our first speaker is Dr. Kasturi Banerjee. She's from the MS8 batch, which means that she graduated BSMS in 2013. She's a postdoctoral researcher at the State University of New York in Stony Brook, USA. And she will be talking about her personal experiences with the alumni network, and how it helped her, and how you can strengthen your skill set in the ICER academic setting that you're in right now. So with this, I will hand over to Kasturi. And Kasturi.
Okay. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Kasturi Banerjee, Dr. Kasturi Banerjee, or PhD, whichever one prefers. So I am the second OG batch of ICER Mohali. So in 2008, I joined ICER Mohali when it was just barely 2 years old. And things have changed dramatically from there till now in, I'll say, close to 12 years. And I'm very excited to see that. So I chose biology as my major when I was in ICER. And I graduated in 2013 with a major in biology. I will say ICER Mohali was my very first experience of the research field. I had no idea about the career, the research career, as well as what being a scientist means. So it was my very first exposure to the entire field. So I had no idea. it will be a life. I say I knew exactly what I was going to do the moment I joined ISA, but I was very excited because it was something new. It was not something a traditional occupation, and most of my family members have been engineers, and I didn't want to be an engineer, so I was very excited to do something new, pursue a new profession. So there was a lot of excitement of the unknown than knowing what I was going to do right after. Uh, I will say studying at ISER Mohali has been the best way to get introduced to the research community, because first of all, the coursework was extremely diverse. We were not learning about a particular subdomain of biology, because that was my major. We were learning all the up and coming field of life sciences. All the lectures were had incorporated new science reports, research that was happening now, as well as fundamentals that had been established years back. So we were always very updated. The second thing was the internships. I cannot stress upon how important internships had been in figuring out what I wanted to do or the field I wanted to pursue after my master's. The third thing is that when I started figuring out that, okay, I'm going to do PhD, let me look where I wanted to do, whether in India or in abroad. One of the reason was to see how different is research in abroad versus what I was getting exposed to in ISER Mohali. And I can tell you, at least from my personal experience, there has not been a huge difference. I'll say the research topics have been different because each country has their own immediate problems to solve. But as far as the lab setting goes, instrumentation goes, core facilities goes, I have literally found no difference between what I was doing in ISER Mohali versus what I did at UNMC versus what I'm doing right now at Stony Brook University. When in my final year, I was, as I said, I was planning to do PhD either in India or in abroad. I was preparing for CSIR UGC NET exam, which we all have to give if you want to do PhD in India. And I remember specifically that the night before, I was stressing out like anything. And I posted something stupid probably on Facebook. And my senior, Kiran D, she called me and she was like, why are you posting this? And I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to fail. I'm not going to crack this CSIR net. And she told me, you don't even need to worry about that. You only need to answer 75 questions, 15 in first, 25 in second, 30 in the last one. That's it. Don't answer one more because they won't consider it. Answer the 75 questions that you can answer confidently and leave it right there. Don't even read anymore. Don't even see anymore. And I told her, it's not going to happen. And she's like, just trust me. And that's what I did. Next day I went, I just answered 75 questions. I probably was done an hour before anybody else was done in the classroom. And I was like, whatever, it's going to happen. 2 months later, when the ranking came, I was ranked 69 in that net. At that very moment, I realized what having a senior means and what having an alumni guidance means. Because they have gone through that experience, they know exactly what is important and what's not. And if you listen to them and you take that advice, it can help you. I never realized, I never thought I would be even in the first 100 of the ranking, but if she would not have given me that last minute advice, I would not have cracked it. There is one more thing I want to talk about, which is the second part, is how to develop your skill set in academic setting. The main thing is you need to understand that your purpose is not based on your career path. Your career path is based on your purpose. You need to understand what you want to do. The first 3 of your ISER Ali years, it's very confusing time. You probably don't know exactly where you want to go, whether you should go do a PhD, whether you want to go in company. That's where your internships are important, because that's your elimination round. That's where you know where your heart lies, where your interests are, what piques you, what makes you excited, and what is just, it's good to have a knowledge about, but that's somewhere you don't want to go ahead with your life. So in my case, I knew for sure that I wanted to be involved with medical research. I wanted to work in a hospital. I wanted to have that direct connection where I could see how my research had an impact with the patient's life. And that was my driving force. That was my purpose. That's how I selected my PhD colleges as well. All the universities I applied, they were all medical research centers. So they were all hospital with a research wing to it. When I got at UNMC, it is also a medical center. And getting into UNMC has been also through an alumni, not my direct alumni network, but by Dr. Mehak Sharma's alumni network, because she was an alumni of UNMC and she introduced me to this university. So the alumni network is amazing, because even your second, third connection can help you achieve or move forward in your career. Even right now at Stony Brook University, I'm actually part of the hospital, and I work in the hospital and I do medical research where I have a direct connection with the patients. So I go to the patients, I ask them to donate their blood and stuff like that. Recently, I'm also being part of the COVID-19 trial, and I can tell you each of these experiences are important. Now, after being in the research career for more than 11 years, I know exactly where I want to go ahead right after my postdoc. I know that I want to become a clinical research coordinator. That's a profession I can do either by taking a job in a hospital or being in a university or being in a company. I have that flexibility. The other thing is how I chose my thesis topics or my PhD program. I knew that I wanted to work with hospitals, so immunology was the best bet, because immunology's medicine has a good connection. That's how my project went. I did my master's thesis with Arunika ma'am. Then my PhD was in cancer immunology. Right now I'm working on vaccine and antibodies. So if you know your purpose, if you at least have an inkling of where your interest lies, where your curiosity lies, you can make your career path and you can choose. I am still taking courses. I take LinkedIn courses, I take university courses. I am learning how to write protocols. I'm learning how to write clinical trials. So it's a constant learning. Yes, I'm not done learning, because I have to still get some more experience before I can apply for my dream job. And a lot of time you will, if you want to think about, do I need to do a PhD or not, or do I need to do postdoc or not, see what that job requires. I have applied to a couple of jobs when I was in my final year of PhD, and there they clearly said, we will not take you if you don't have a postdoc. So in that case, you have to do a postdoc, yeah, because that's what they're looking for. So the three things that I want to focus on, which I realized at the end of these 11 years, is that first of all, in this field, your career growth is completely dependent on you. How you approach it, how you think about it, how you deal with the pressure is what's gonna decide how you proceed in your career. And it is universal, doesn't matter which university you graduate from. Uh, Second thing is networking is important. Use it, start network. And the third thing is, sometimes you get job because you applied at the right moment, at the right time. That is opportunity. Or sometimes you get job through your network. There is nothing wrong in either of those paths. What's important is what you do after you get in there, after you get the job, after you go and start the program. That's what decides where you go forward. And that will be it. I don't want to preach too much, but that's has been my whole 12 years of experience. And if you guys want to know more, I have my podcast where I explain all topics individually, so you can follow there as well. So that will be it. And thank you all of you for coming here. This is fantastic. I am really happy and really honored to be here today.
Then we find that most metals in their native state.
Okay. Thank you, Kasturi, for that
Of these metals, many times
enlightening discussion about,
likewise, if you
I mean, your experiences with your seniors.
very so many.
Hello.
You can say that carbon is a heavy metal. So many compounds of
Yeah.
carbon.
Hi. Okay. Let us now move on to
So you are saying
our second speaker of the day, who is Vinay Nikam. So Vinay is an MBA student at IIM Kozhikode in India, and he graduated BSMS in 2017. And today he will briefly discuss where alumni have gone after finishing their degrees and what are the different fields that they're working in, and essentially how networking can help you in your career. So I hand over
yes, exactly.
the dais to Vinay now. Vinay?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Neeraj. I'm really honored that I get to be on this platform, and thank you everyone who has respect that done up, and hopefully we would grow along with time. So I'll keep my introduction short because I want to take more questions later. So my name is Vinay Nikam, and I am an MS-12. So I graduated as a mathematics majors, and so ICER for me also, like I ended up at ICER because engineering was something I did not want to do, and I was fond of mathematics, and that's why I chose. Which later I realized maybe mathematics was interesting, but I was not able to contribute to science. So it wouldn't have been fruitful either way for me to continue in science. So I did not continue in the research field later on, and I was lucky enough to figure out early that instead of science, business management is something I want to do. So like I wrote CAT in the second year itself because I just wanted to see okay kaisa hota exam, because I knew I would go for an MBA later on. And yeah, I was also fortunate to get many opportunities to ICER only to pursue the business line, which I eventually went on to. So what I realized there, that even if I was there for 5 years, I could have worked, like I could work on my skills there, which would eventually help in my business management career. So there I uh, organized a lot of events there because that was something which I really enjoyed doing. So I was a part of the organizing team for Insomnia in third year and in the final year. So one of the best memories we have from our batches, we were the ones to start the inter-batch dance competition, which uh, takes place on 26th Jan. So we were the ones who initiated that, and now we really glad that it has continued till now. And later I went on. So for after 1 year of work ex, I went on to pursue my MBA from IIM Kozhikode. So I have done my first year, and now I'm interning at one of the well-funded health startups in Mumbai, because that's something which is really close to my heart, that eventually मुझे खुद का कुछ करना है. So startups is something which I have always pursued as an interest, and I'll talk more about them as the questions come in, but I'll just take you through what our alumni have done after graduating from IISER. So can you see the screen? Yeah.
We can see
Yeah.
the screen.
Okay. So this is just a small intro. So here we can see that not only in science, but our alumni have gone on to work for many reputed firms. So if you see the left half, it shows the different firms they are working in now. So they're like government of Uttar Pradesh. There is Ola, Deloitte, and many new startups as well. So Urban Company or Grow. And on the right side, you can see that in academia, where what fields people have chosen. So many have gone into data analytics, biophysics, statistics, and I know friends, my batchmates, who decided that they wanted to go into AI and ML, and then later on they took the courses and eventually transitioned to that phase. So the reason I wanted to show this is uh, you you get connected to the people in particular fields, because if you are interested in let's say finance, or if you are really interested in analytics, so we can get in touch, we should get in touch with people who are working in those fields, who we have alumni there, and it really helps to get in touch with them and get a mentorship from them, because it eases out many things. It reduces many barriers that we have, because we come from a core research background. So that can help in removing those obstructions. And this is to depict which institutes our alumni have gone on to post MS from IISER. So on the left half, it's the universities where people are pursuing their postdocs or PhDs, and on the right side is more of a business side people have gone on to. So this is, I feel, we have a reach base of alumni, and I urge everyone to just find where people are working and reach out to them. Send them a text, LinkedIn invite. Don't send just hi, but a small introduction helps, that hi, I'm XYZ from MS17, and I would like to talk to you about these things. So everyone will reach out, because we are all a community, and eventually we would want to help each other out. So actively seek support from the people who are working in the field that you are interested in. Reach out to them, because it really helps a lot. I mean, for me, something which really uh, strengthen the belief that business management is something I want to pursue is one of the ISB events. So ISB has their annual summit, business leadership summit. So I had attended that, and there they had invited CEO of SpiceJet. So there he talked about how SpiceJet uh, turned around because they were in the losses, and the employees still remain with the firm, and he narrated the whole story, that how they had remained loyal to the company, and they managed to turn around the business. So the kind of value creation it did, so that is something which made me really interested. Then okay, uh, yeah, it's a great feeling that you are able to make such an impact, and that's something which inspired me, that okay, business is the line I would want to go. So it can be anything for you. So if science excites you, then take up courses or reach out to professors online anywhere. So even if you read their one single paper and write to them that, okay, I read this paper and I have this query, they will reply. And maybe not everyone, but out of 10, even three will reply. You know you have made a connection. So don't copy paste the email and send it to everyone, because I see our profs sharing that a same student has a student has sent the same email, even the gender is not changed there. So it was meant for a male professor, and then it went, same mail went to the female professor. So uh, be genuinely interested in what people are doing, and then ask them for help. They will definitely help you out. So this is where I'll end that. I mean, networking is a skill, so you will get better at it eventually. So I'll just narrate what I am doing right now. So my one of our alums from IIM Koikot, he he was the one who conceptualized Behrouz Biryani and made it a success. He is an investor in Bombay Shaving Company as well. It's a grooming startup. So he had come to our campus and we were just having a small chat. He had, coincidentally, he had come for our alumni meet, and we were having chat as to where you would want to go and why. So there I shared with him that I'm really interested in startups, because there you get a lot of exposure, and in small period of time you get to learn a lot of things. So that 2 minute talk uh, led to me being interning at here. So it's one of the most well-funded startups, and uh, that small conversation also can impact a lot how you go ahead with your career. So uh, all I'm saying is build genuine connections, write to people, and keep on upskilling yourself. So whatever field you're interested in, go find a course, uh, learn about it completely, because now since we are all in the lockdown, it gives a great opportunity to pursue these kind of courses and be a skilled person. Because after graduating from ICER, I have realized that uh, it's really helps that you have a depth in your knowledge and not breadth. So if you are interested in immunology or something, so go in depth. Maybe you should be able to, for example, you should know ki, uh, what's the difference between vaccine or a modified drug or something like that. So depth really helps, not the breadth kind of thing, because more people will be in generalist thing, and you will be able to differentiate if you are really good at only one thing. So you don't have to be master of many things, but being skilled at one thing will really help you a lot. And yeah, I would like to take more questions towards the end. So I'll hand over now to Neeraj. And thank you so much for turning up in huge numbers. This is really great that many people and current and former students have turned up. And yeah, that's it from my side. Thank you.
Hello. Am I? Can people hear me?
Neeraj, yeah, you're audible.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So then maybe we can move on to taking some questions now. Uh, so let's start with. So there's a question for Kasturi. This question is from Tanvi Madan. So can Amit sir, can you find Tanvi Madan and unmute her?
Yeah, Tanvi, please ask a question.
So, hello, ma'am. My question was, what is your best way to get exposed to a new field, mostly in biology, when you can't intern anywhere, like in a time like this?
Uh,
Thank you. A slight technical problem. Hi, Tanvi, thank you for that question. So one of the thing you can do is try to get some exposure through online courses, not like masters or something like through LinkedIn courses or through some like if you're interested, say in public health sector, UNICEF have some free online courses that you can go and look into it. What that does is that you go through that course, you see what's the material, what they're talking about, what that field is about, and think after doing that, that is this somewhere your heart lies. That's one of the things I do as well, time and often, because in this way you are getting exposed to different field without being in an internship position, especially right now. The other thing you can do is you can talk to your seniors who have different job titles. Like, I'm a postdoc, but Nikhil is a different person. Somebody is a data scientist. Go and talk to them and ask them how was their experience? How did they learn? Is there something they can share? And that will be a good way to do it. Thank you. Mhm.
Okay, great. So, uh, so there's a question for Vinay. Uh, it's not really signed. So, Vinay, what advice would you give current students of ISER Mohali to help them take the route to MBA?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So the only advice I'll give is you you have to figure out why you want to do an MBA. That that part really plays an important role in you being enjoying the MBA journey as well, because uh, many people would think that okay, post an MBA I'll get a huge salary, but uh, as I see amongst my batchmates, that's really not true, because even if they get a high paying job, they are not happy, because this is not the kind of work they'll enjoy. So uh, first figure out that why you want to do an MBA. And because like maybe it may be because you want to run an organization, or you enjoy working with teams, and you enjoy running a business. It can be anything, but the most important critical part will be to make sure that this is something you would want to pursue for a longer period of time, because once you get into any field, whether it is an MBA or uh, PhD, you will not be able to exit that easily if it turns out not good for you. So PhD, you get in, you bound to be there for next 3 to 5 years in a PhD, and later also to get out of it, you will have to gain another skill set. And in MBA, it's also the same, because you will be investing your lot of money and your 2 years, and then after that you can't just go back to something else. So make sure that you are clear why you want to do it, and once you're there, then for an MBA I would just suggest that prepare hard. So in preparing for an MBA is not the same as preparing for an IIT or a KVPI. It's more of a practice than how you gain the analytical skills, because now the exams have become more of a how you manage your time than how brilliant you are. So only advice is to practice, practice, and practice. Give as many mocks as possible, because until you see your score growing, you would not get a confidence that you will do well on the D-Day. So talk to people who have chosen that route, and just keep on working towards it, because it took me 4 attempts, because I was hell bent on the fact that I wanted to get into top seven, one of the top seven IIMs, because I felt that that is where I would get my network, which would help me in eventually getting into the businesses. One of the businesses I want to start. So uh, I, even though it took 4 attempts, but eventually I did manage to get in there. So I will just say that even though you feel lost, or you feel that okay, everyone else in my batch is getting a PhD abroad, or getting a job somewhere, or they are getting into other fields, and now what will happen to me? But don't lose hope, keep on trying, because I did take 1 year off to prepare for the exam, and then I eventually made it. So it may take some time, but once you are sure that this is what you want to do, give you 100% and keep on practicing. That's what I'll say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Vinay, for the answer. So the next, we have some more questions in store. Let's see. So next, there's a question for Kasturi. Kasturi, so how has the PhD journey been for you overall? And what are the challenges that you faced, and how did you cope up with such difficulties?
Thank you. That's a very good question. So my PhD experience overall have been a mixed bag. There were a lot of difficulties, but there were a lot of achievements as well. So the first thing I don't want to talk a lot about it, but I will shorten it. So definitely the mentor-student relationship was one of the avenues that I struggled with. But eventually me and my mentor, we figured out in the last 2 years of my PhD program that we had to find a way to be constructive so that I can graduate and he can help me graduate. Sometimes you have to be just blunt. That's easier said than done, but you have to, because the PhD is for you and your career more than your PI. So it's always good to be honest and let them know exactly how things are moving, because sometimes they are so occupied they don't know what's exactly is going on. The second thing that helped me a lot during my PhD time was I was involved a lot in the student community. I was the International Student Association president. So that helped me to network within the university and get a lot of information on how to deal with different people and a different difficult situation. Because one of the things that you will learn during PhD and you will have to use after your PhD is your communication skills. How you talk with people, how you mediate a conversation, how you diffuse a difficult situation. That's a skill that you need to learn. I will say I am very lucky because I'm the shortest one who did my PhD in my lab. My lab average has been 6 years. I finished it in 4.5 years. So that has been a personal achievement in my lab. So other than that, when it comes to difficult times, there are only two things that can help you. First is your support system. So your parents, your friends, sometimes psychiatrists. I have gone and taken mental health help from psychiatrists and psychologists, because PhD is a difficult time and they are sometimes the best people to go and talk to. And the second thing was having short-term goals rather than long-term goals. So instead of thinking what will happen at year 5, I just thought, what is what I can achieve in next 3 months, whether I can finish this paper, whether I can start a project, whether I can finish this scholarship. So that helped a lot. And because it's easier to finish your short-term goals than your long-term goals. And that also gives a positive feedback. It helps you to stay motivated. It excites you a lot. And as I said, staying involved in student associations and activities helped in distracting some of the stress. So that was my overall PhD experience.
Okay. Thank you, Kasturi, for answering that. So next, we have a question for Vinay. This is from Kamal Panay. Amit sir, could you please unmute him?
Hello. Yeah. Hi. My question is, suppose I know that I am interested in business management and healthcare startups. How do I go about landing an internship at a healthcare startup while having no prior experience or background?
Thank you, Kamal, for your question. So I'll answer how I landed up here first, and maybe we can talk about how you can approach organizations for whom we don't have the necessary skill set. So how I landed up here was it's more of a personal connection that we had that chat during our alumni meet, and later in December, I think I called him up that I really want to intern at your firm, and I don't want to go for a big corporate or an MNC. So, but later he said that it's a 6-month-old startup. So he said they are only taking full-time employees, but not the interns. But then I sent him a text again in Jan mentioning that I'm ready to do online courses or pick up the right skills that you might require, because that was Jan and our internship start in April. So I had a 3-month window. So I just sent him a long text right, saying that I'm ready to learn whatever fields are required to be an intern there, and I am okay to work pro bono. So I was like, I don't want a stipend, but I just want to work with you because I felt that this is where I would get to learn a lot. So you have to show the intent. You need not have the expertise, because I have never worked in healthcare field. So the firm I worked before this was a B2B food business, so business to business, and this firm is an FMCG, so it's direct to consumer brand. So there is no connection of food and healthcare. But maybe my intent was so strong that he felt, okay, chance dekhe dekhte, there is no harm in it, and so that eventually he agreed, and he did give me an assignments before confirming the internship. But try your best to show that you why you want to be in that firm. Or and the second part about upskilling yourself. So as I mentioned, work on the some topics. Maybe just ask them what kind of work they have, and find where you can help them. So maybe it's data analytics, which I believe ISER students are good enough to go into a data analytics domain if we choose the right kind of electives in our majors, or in the free time if we take up those hobbies. So maybe it's data analytics, or programming, even if you know R really well, or if you know Python really well. So that also makes a lot of difference. So one thing I realized here at IMK is uh, the way ISER students, like the way a research student thinks and the way an engineer approaches the problems are really different. So that one differentiation I realized is that we grow to question everything. So we don't take everything just whatever has been said just like that. So the intent to question everything and verify it is really strong in us compared to others. So that is one part we are strong at. So build those skill sets. So maybe just tell them that you have worked in these projects in the summers, or you have done really well in that course, and just send them a summary. Okay, this is the project I worked, and this is what my profs have said. So maybe you can just take a small recommendation from profs, because recommendation is something which can really make a difference in you getting an accept in any company or in university for that matter. Because I know my batchmate who went for a conference in Bangalore. He there he had a chat with one of the profs from Germany, and through that eventually he landed up internship. It's not internship, a PhD position in Germany. So you never know what will help, but you have to show them that okay, you are interested and you have the specific kind of skill set. So find something which which is common in you and the firm's needs, so that can help. Over to
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Vinay, for the answer. Just to Aiser Mohali now also has a data science minor. So that is something that probably can help people who want to take up jobs in MBA and the industry and such. The next question is for Kasturi. It is from Yudish Verma. So he's from MS18 batch, and his question is regarding internships. So he asks, if you want to plot a pie chart about the important aspects of a summer internship, then how would you put things like SOPs, recos, CVs, CGPAs? So basically he wants to know what percentage of information do you want to allocate to different things. Yeah.
Thank you. That's another very good question. So, internship while staying at ISER Mohali, like studying at ISER Mohali versus doing an internship as a PhD student is different. I'm going to only focus on the ISER Mohali part. When you're applying for internships, your first 2 years, in the first year, it's preferred if you do it in your own institute. The reason why you don't have enough CGPA and enough experience to get other labs interested in taking you. Once you do your first summer internship at your own institute, you have an experience to share with them. As far as I have done my first 2 internship at ISER Mohali. My third one was at IISc Bangalore. That was somewhere I wrote directly, and at that time I had bagged 2 internship basically experience. The thing that mattered the most was what I was willing to learn from that lab. They care about your CGPA, yes, but not a lot about SOP, because this is not like a graduate program you're applying. They are mostly interested in why you want to do your internship in that lab. What is specifically of interest. So you have to mention that in your email. Don't write a generic, I want to do an internship, please take me. No, you have to mention exactly what intrigued you in that lab and what you are interested to learn from that lab, and attach a 1-page resume, because in initial years you won't have a lot. In the 4th year, I did the INSA summer program. So India has a very good summer internship program. There is INSA, there is other ISERs. Apply them because they have a standard form. So if you get selected, they assign you to a lab. So that's another way to go. And the same way, there are a couple of international ones as well. So your CGPA is always going to be a huge factor, and your resume is going to be the second one, unless you're applying for international internship. Recommendation letters are the third position. That's it.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kasturi, for that answer. So it's almost 10:30. We should close the session soon. So maybe we'll just have one more question and then we'll stop. So this question is again for Kasturi. And the question is, so you mentioned you're working on, so this is of course a question from somebody, but they have not mentioned their name. But you mentioned like you have been working on the COVID trials and such. So how is working in medical research line different from doing basic sciences?
That's a very good question. So the basic science can also be part of the medical science. So for example, if you're looking into a drug and you want to see how that drug exactly works within a cell, that's the basic science component of it. Medical research actually has the translational part, which what I'm doing, and then the basic part where you learn and develop vaccines and drugs and see exactly how they work. And translational part is where you get exposed to the patients and you work more closely with them and see exactly there's a component to it, there's an epidemiological component to it, a little bit of public health component to it. So if you are more interested in learning on developing like a drug or a pathway to figure out how certain things work to then make a treatment on it, that's where you do basic research. Like a lot of people say heart disease, that's fundamentally a basic research field. Once those pathways are understood, then the translational medicine comes in and start working with them to develop drug. Whereas vaccines I will say is more on the translational side, because you need a constant communication between the infected group and the research science. You're gonna do research in either case. So don't think if you're doing a basic research, you will not be able to use it in a translational field. It's how you connect it, it's gonna be important. And that's something you learn while doing your PhD or while doing some of the internship, because my PhD was more basic in nature, but the application was translational. Even right now, it's basic research that I'm doing in the lab, but has a translational output. So. I hope that answers.
So thank you, Kasturi, for that answer. I guess we can end now.